Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. I hope everybody had a great Christmas. Spent some time with family. Not too many friends, but keep social distancing. So we're going to wait for people to sign in. Remember to log on to YouTube here. Give me an idea that you're here. And also you should be logging in with your cell phone to let me know that you're present tonight. Maybe everybody's using their new iPad or new MacBook or Dell computer to watch tonight's class. So maybe it'll make things just a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun. Okay, we've got one person. Actually, we got three, so that's awesome. Now we're starting to get people. Cool. We're going to schedule out the rest of the week probably tomorrow. I don't have any more openings for tomorrow's class, but if people want to drive on Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, let me know. I'm not going to drive, of course, on New Year's, and it will probably be limited amount of time on some of those other days. So we want to try to make hay with what we got left for this week. I think temperature-wise it will be fine. I think we're going to encounter some rain later in the week, but I think we're going to be okay for the most part of the week. So, just give me a heads up of what you're willing to do. I think I have now driven with everybody from class. Today I drove with the last two people that hadn't driven before, and I was quite happy with the way things went today with the new drivers and those that have been driving with me and continue to progress along. Remember, we're going to be finished the classroom portion next week. So we've got a lot of material to cover tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. And then next week we'll go back to our original format of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Thursday will be a little bit of a review. I shouldn't really call it a review. We're going to probably punch distracted driving out that last class. There isn't really much on the final on distracted driving. So I think we can kind of do that. And then I think like we did with the midterm, halfway through class, I'll let you have the final because most of you did quite well on the midterm. Let me talk about that. I forgot that we did that last week. For the most part, everybody did extremely well. Now, there were a few of you that did not. Don't be alarmed. I'd have to go back through. I haven't had a chance because I still have a family here to go through your midterm to take a look at where you had your issues. It could have been on the signs. It could have been on factual information like numbers, or it could have been on technique of doing certain things. So I'm going to take a look at your test and try to find out where you had your problem so I can give you a heads up. Now, you should have been able to review the ones that you had wrong, meaning that it should have shown you. If you punched in, I think at the end, you could go back through and take a look at the ones that mark you off on. So you should have been able to make a note yourself of where you had your issues. But that leaves us with basically 6 topics that we have to go over. So tonight we're going to start off with driving emergencies, and we're going to probably finish the night with starting to deal with driving in adverse weather. So we'll probably talk about ice, sleet, and snow since we are now in the midst of the coldest part of the year in January. Then we're going to talk about alcohol and drugs. Then we've got highway driving, and we've got insurance, and then we've got sharing the road with other roadway users. And basically that will be it. So we've got roughly 5 classes of content notes and just a little bit, like I said, on a week from Thursday on distracted driving, and then I'll hand you off to the final and see what you can show me what you know. And we'll continue on with our driving the best that we can. Now, since we do have a good week of weather-wise, except for the rain, snow's what's going to kick us. Snow's what's going to kick us. I've had weeks, previous years, where we'll have 2 or 3 snowstorms, and I can't salvage more than 2 days, maybe 3 tops out of 6 days for driving. So don't keep on kicking your driving down the road, meaning, I really don't want to do it now, Mr. Toll. Can we do it a little bit later? Sure, we can, but it's going to be much further down the road. So try to take care of business, sign up, and I'll have at least probably half of you done by next week, which will be kind of cool. All right, let's just jump right into tonight's topic, which is driving emergencies. So let's talk about driving emergencies. The way I approach driving emergencies is a lot like first aid and CPR. If you've taken Q's class at Oyster River, the school basically trains you on first aid technique and CPR. But in reality, most people don't have to use it in their lifetime. So the question is, why do I need to learn first aid or CPR if the chances are that I'll never need to use it? Well, because it's a life or death situation, meaning that wouldn't you want to know how to do it? Because when it's called upon you to know how to use a tourniquet, how to apply direct pressure, and other things that they teach you, it's important because you may not be able to find anybody around that can help you do it. It's going to rely on you. And driving's the same thing. When you're the only one in the vehicle, no one's going to be able to tell you within 5 seconds, 10 seconds of what's happening to the inside or outside of your car and what you have to do. You're going to have to call upon your base of knowledge. So what we're going to try to do is to break down the main components of steps to take in a driving emergency. Now, we're not going to cover every single driving emergency that is out there for a driver, but we're going to key on the most important ones, and we're going to give you the foundation of steps to take. And if you really want to get into it, then I would say probably dig a little bit deeper, research a little bit more. If you're buying an older car, let me put it this way. If you're buying an older car and you're worried about whether it's going to overheat or have engine problems, well, guess what? I'd probably research a little bit. What am I going to do if I have, brake failure, if the car overheats? Because the likelihood of that's going to happen is pretty good. I'm a firm believer in prevention, meaning that if you can keep your car in great shape, the likelihood that you're going to have some of the driving emergencies that we talk about will be pretty slim. But if you don't check fluids, if you don't check tires, there's a good chance that these things will creep up in the life of owning a vehicle. So don't put off basic maintenance. Don't put off making checks around your vehicle. Don't put off opening the hood and seeing what's happening. So I really like what's right under the term driving emergencies. There's a little phrase that I like to use when I teach this. It's think before you act. A lot of times we're very impulsive, and whatever comes into our head or in our mind, we speak it out or we just do it, and we don't really think about the consequences. Are we making things better or are we making things worse? With driving emergencies, because they happen so quickly, you've got to know what you need to do right off correctly, because if it's not, you are going to make the situation worse. It could lead to a crash, and that's what you don't want to happen. You don't want to find yourself, okay, I've got a car that's overheating, and all of a sudden now I can't see the road, I can't handle my car, it's out of control, and you hit someone. That's not what you want. So let's kind of take a look from the lesser of driving emergencies, and we'll work our way to some of the most severe and violent type of driving emergencies. So the first one that I want you to write down in your notes is running off the pavement. And running off the pavement happens to everybody. At some point in your driving, you're going to go off the edge of the road, whether by design or by error. So don't panic, grip the steering wheel tightly. The car will pull. It will always pull to the right. The reason why it pulls to the right is because you got your right side of your car on the soft shoulder, and you've got the left side of your vehicle on pavement, which gives you an uneven amount of traction. It usually slopes too. We know that the road is banked, so it's going to be lower to the right, higher to the left. Just by nature, it's going to pull you to the right. Second thing I want you to write down is ease up on the gas pedal. I guess I should point this out, and here's a hint. Now, I've been asking people, you've been listening to class because some of the things I've been giving you, you guys aren't remembering. So when I say you should write this down or hint, it's coming up again, and probably in a test question. So here's the hint that I want to give you. When anything happens adversely in your car for a driving emergency, the first thing you should always be thinking about is steering. When your car is starting to act up mechanically, or it's pulling to a side or something, you should be thinking about, I've got to keep my car in my lane so I don't go out of my lane to hit parked cars, to hit people, to cross the center line, to hit oncoming cars. I've got to control my vehicle. So all driving emergency starts with steering. Second thing, let up on the gas pedal. Very rarely your first reaction should be brake. It should be let go of the gas, try to get a feel for how the car's reacting to the driving emergency, and then go into the last step, which would be braking and looking for a safe place to pull over. Now, I included here, once you've pulled over by the side of the road or into a parking lot, you may not want to get back out into the road for a moment. Your heart might be beating a mile a minute. And by the way, running off the pavement can be an indicator that you were looking at your phone, you're distracted, you're not paying attention, and that's why you've left the roadway. Once you find yourself off to the edge, the two things that could happen would be an oversteer, which means that you're trying to get back onto the roadway. You turn the wheel more than what is needed, and you're crossing over and going into the opposing lane. It's very natural to have that, fight or flight response to an emergency where you're all, the endorphins are going crazy, and, you overreact. Try to stay somewhat calm and don't turn the wheel more than what you need, which would probably be a 2 or 3 inch turn of the wheel, not a half of a turn, which would be like, 6 to 8 inches. That's going to just throw you right over the yellow line. The second negative thing that could happen would be you're so far off to the right soft shoulder that you can't pull your car back to the left onto the road. It's just sucking you into the bushes and trees, and you better hold on, have your seatbelt on, and have a car with an airbag, because you're gonna have a crash. And these things do happen. Don't think that it's going to be minor. Sometimes it's pretty severe. Now, here's a little clip from an insurance company on running off the pavement. So they're going to kind of talk about it. See me get out of here first.
Drifting onto the gravel shoulder of a highway can lead to a serious collision.
The uneven traction could cause you to lose control of your vehicle and send you into the ditch.
In this situation, don't make any quick movements. Making a quick change or abruptly moving back onto the pavement could send your vehicle into the path of oncoming traffic.
A head-on collision could occur because of overcorrecting. You should grip the steering wheel firmly and slowly ease off the gas, but do not brake. When you feel you have control of the vehicle, check your mirrors, signal, and ease back onto the highway when safe.
If the drop-off to the shoulder is steeper than usual, slow down even more and steer back onto the pavement at an even sharper angle.
So if you can look back at that video, the pavement, was sloping, and then the soft shoulder was sloping. So it is really going, to pull you off to the right side of the road. As long as your speed's not too fast, it's not too difficult to recover from. Another common emergency. Now, the other thing about emergencies, we can look at it two ways. One is an emergency is being indicated by your instrument panel, like overheating, like brake problems, electrical problems. So we have warning lights. So there are some forewarning when it comes to mechanical emergencies. But then there are some exterior driving emergencies where you have no idea why it just happened and you're just only reacting. And a tire blowout is such a case where you just hit something, it could be something that's sharp like metal, glass, a pothole. You just have worn tires that are really worn right down to the steel belts, and then you hit a bump a little harder than normal. It's going to just blow off the rim. But there's nothing in the car that's telling you that this is happening. You may have tire pressure gauges. If you have a tire pressure gauge in your car, it may show you that you're losing PSIs in your car. So that's one indicator inside that may help you with a blowout. But usually a blowout means sudden loss of air, and you're going to lose control of the vehicle. So what I want you to write down with a tire blowout, this is really important, especially for the final, is that the front tire is the worst tire to have blown out, whether it be left or right. A front tire blowout will always pull you in the direction of that front tire. So I guess with oncoming traffic, a left front tire blowout is worse than a front right tire blowout because it's pulling you to oncoming traffic. But if you're on a major highway and you're in the middle lane and you've got a lane to the right or to the left, it's just going to pull you into the corresponding lane. It doesn't matter which tire in the back blows out, it's going to cause some type of a fishtail. Now, what I want you to write down in your notes is that the faster your speed, the more violent the fishtail. And what do I mean by a fishtail? Let me get out of here and let me show you. A fishtail is when the back end swings. So if there's just a little bit of a minor swing of your vehicle, I'll try to be like a car. See how my hand just wiggles a little bit? That's like what if you watch the tail of a fish. Okay, you'd notice the tail of the fish would be, okay. But the faster you go, the more of a swing it's going to be. So at extreme speeds, you could actually roll the vehicle over. So hold the steering wheel tightly. Now, I don't like the term straight when it comes to driving emergencies. I think they should put down, stay in your lane. Hold the steering wheel tightly and try to stay in your lane. When people think of straight, they think of holding the steering wheel at 9 and 3, 10 and 2, wherever you got the steering wheel when you're going down the road and not moving from that. You may have to move a little bit if the road's bending. If there's a slight bend to the road, of course your hands are moving to the right or to the left a little bit, but you're staying centered in your lane. Once again, take your foot off the gas pedal. It's always going to be a steering problem, then letting go of the gas to let the weight of the vehicle slow itself down. Brake only when you think you have control of the vehicle at a lower speed, and then pull over to the side of the road using your directionals, looking for a safe place. Usually with a blowout, you don't have the luxury of finding a good place to pull over. You're kind of stuck. The longer you drive on a flat tire that's fully flat, the more of a risk that you're going to be ruining your rim. But if it's a slow leak and you can just tell that the tire is probably losing some tire pressure, you still might be able to go a mile or two to get off the road onto a secondary road, go to a parking lot, someone's driveway. Off ramps are better to change a tire than doing it on the main highway because the speeds are slower, less traffic, wider lanes. So all these things you got to be thinking about. Okay, what's my next step? Okay, got a flat tire, or I have a tire blowout, which is a flat tire. I'm gonna have to change a tire soon. So where should I choose to do it? You should always try to pick a spot to the right. Never choose a spot off to the left. It's going to be hard for a tow truck or anybody else that's helping you to be over on the left side of the road. So try to find a place that's off to the right. So let's talk about tire blowouts. Let's see if here's the common causes: low tire pressure, bulges and cuts, debris in the road, and potholes. So I found this to be kind of humorous. Although changing a tire is serious business and things can go wrong. So I want to show you, someone made a commercial about some of the mishaps of changing tires. So let me show you this. Now you can tell by the word tire being spelt a little bit differently. It's not an American commercial. This was over in Europe. And as humorous as some of these commercials were, there's a lot of truth. We'll go backwards. The guy that was underneath a car up on a jack, you don't do that, okay? A lot of people have gone underneath a vehicle, and for whatever reason, the vehicle has gone off the jack and has crushed and suffocated people. So if you need to get something because it's rolled underneath the vehicle, you don't crawl under there. You use a large object to kind of, scratch it back towards you. The person that was walking around the vehicle with his vest on, being very anal and very, specific about what he was doing all the right things, but he wasn't paying attention. And when you're not paying attention, you got to realize sometimes people get too close. They didn't see, or at least they didn't adhere to the cones and triangles and everything else you had set up, and you went beyond that area. So of course, you're going to get hit. The last one had more to do, not so much that it was a male or female, but that why are you going to change a tire on an overpass like that? Try to find a better, safer place to change your tire. You're really too close to the guardrail, and if you are pulling on something, if you lose your grip, you are going to stumble, you are going to fall. Now, are you going to fall over the guardrail? Probably not, but you could fall, you could get hurt. So that is why they showed that. So I just thought that was a little bit of humor to put into driver's ed. So let's talk about tire pressure, because tire pressure is a common cause of blowouts and having flat tires. So you should all get into the habit of checking tires. Now, I'm going to do this starting tomorrow. Since we're covering it tonight, I think it's a good idea that I take the time to show you the two ways that you monitor tire pressure. One is inside the car while it's moving. So if you want to know, we can do it while we're moving. The second is before we get into the car to the drive, I am going to take out a tire pressure gauge and show you how to operate that. Now, if you have a pedal bicycle, I'm sure you've had some experience with putting air into a tire, and you've probably used the tire pressure gauge. Now it's time. You're moving up on your transportation. You're not going to use a bike anymore. Let's figure out how that applies to a car. Now, here's a good question since we've got you online. So please put in the comment, whether it be on the phone or up on YouTube. We have a bicycle tire. We have a car tire. Which tire gets the more tire pressure? All right. So write that down so I can see that you're here and still listening and paying attention, and I'll go through the rest of this. Don't rely on the sensors inside the vehicle to give you an accurate reading. You're going to have to use it with the tire gauge. So that's why we're going to check it tomorrow. Check it roughly early in the morning. Tires will lose tire pressure the colder the temperature gets. So checking it when it's around 30 to 40, it's going to give you a lower reading than if you're doing it at 60 or 70 in the summer. So just remember that. Know your specs. They're found on the sidewall. Newer cars will have it on the door frame. I think I mentioned this in our first week of class, and I'll point it out when we drive tomorrow for those of you that are driving. And know which is which. Cars have at least 3 separate pressure ratings listed. One for the front, one for the rear, and one for the spare. So make sure you know which tire you're checking and what those numbers are. So keep it. Car tires have more pressure. We're getting a few answers here. Let's see. I'm going to go to my phone here because they don't pop up automatically here. Henry says bikes have higher. Matt says cars. Sarah's not sure. Michael says bikes. Then the rest of you, let's see, I'm not seeing any more comments here. Come on, people. Got to participate. This is part of it. Bicycle. That is the correct answer, by the way. It is a bicycle. The bicycle tire does get the higher tire pressure. Car tire pressure will probably be in the range of 32, 34 into the low 40s. Some bicycle tires can be well over 100. A lot of people do it by the size. So when they look at a bike tire, they go, oh, that's tiny. That doesn't need much. So I'd say low on a bike and high on a car. It's just the opposite. You put too much air pressure in a tire of a car and you ride it down the road because of the speed that you're going, you hit your first bump, you're going to just blow out that tire. You're going to blow out that tire, and it's going to react just like what we said. It's going to pull in one direction or it's going to fishtail. So you have to have some basic knowledge about tires or else you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So let's talk about actually changing a tire. This is what a worn tire looks like. Okay, this is taking a turn way, way too fast. So you're wearing it right down to the steel belts. Not safe at all. And if you drive on a flat tire for too long, the actual rubber and the seal that keeps the tire onto the rim will loosen, and the tire will actually tear away from the rim. And not only are you going to have to get a new tire, you're going to have to get a new rim. So how much does a new tire cost? Here's a good question. We're always trying to save money. We know driving's expensive. Depending on the type of vehicle that you have, it could be in the low 100s till over $250, $300 for a full-size large truck. Some of these huge vehicles, have big tires, and they're expensive, and the rims are going to be expensive. So be very careful of how you treat your tires. So make sure they don't wear out prematurely. So there's the car riding on the rim. And I saw this vehicle off on the side of the road one Saturday. We were driving in Dover, and I had my student pull over to the side of the road. I go, I got to take a picture of this. This is something you're not supposed to do. We talk about it in driver's ed, but I've never had a chance to take a picture of somebody that's actually done it. Now, the person wasn't in the car or even near the car, so they must have left it there overnight, and now they're going to probably have to come get it later in the day. But that should never happen. Your car should not be void of its tire. The tire should still be on. So let's take a look at how to change a tire. Let's see if we can get out of here. These are all the videos that I already showed you. First of all, look for a safe place to pull over. We've kind of talked about that. Driveway, parking lots are all the best. Get everybody out of the vehicle. You cannot have anybody in the vehicle, because the minute they start to move from side to side, the car's going to go off the jack. Put warning triangles, flares, lights. Give any type of warning for people in front and behind the vehicle. Now, when it says trig the wheel or you set the parking brake, what you're trying to do is when the car is being jacked up, it's going to be leaning on one side on that particular corner. So you want to find a large piece of wood or a large rock if you can, or what they call like a chuck. It's a piece of rubber, and you're going to just kind of jam it right into the bottom of the tire opposite the tire that you're changing. So an example, if you're changing the back right tire, then you're going to put something underneath the front left tire. As the car's being jacked up, all the weight is going to that front left tire, and the car may move, so you're trying to prevent the rolling. Pry off the wheel cover, loosen the lug nuts. Now remember, to loosen lug nuts, you go left. To tighten them, you go right. So lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. If you do it the wrong way, you're just going to be there forever. It's never going to happen. Place the jack on firm ground. Jack up the vehicle 2 to 3 inches higher than what you need for the spare, because the spare is going to be fully inflated. So when you take off the tire, it's flat. So if you just get it barely off the ground, the new tire you're putting on is not going to fit. You're going to have to continue to jack it up. So just get it jacked up early rather than doing it later. Keep the lug nuts in your pocket. That way you don't lose them. Lift off the tire and place it with the spare. It fits right over the bolts. Okay, and it's probably going to be 5 holes. All right, so it's not 4, it's 5. So just kind of line it up. And remember, always have the tire stem facing you. I've had a student try to put on a spare tire. We were practicing. Actually, I think we were changing a tire now that I think of it. And they had the inflator stem underneath the vehicle. It was on the wrong side. So it's got to be facing you. It's got to be out, okay, towards the road. Take the screws and start tightening up the lug nuts. Now, when you've got your spare tire on those 5 bolts, I don't care where you start, but wherever you start, you've got to skip a bolt. So if you're starting at 12 o'clock, then go to the one that's like at 5 o'clock, and then go to the one that's like at 9 o'clock. Skip the one that's 7, then go to 3 o'clock, and then go to 5 o'clock. So you're basically making a star pattern. That way the tire is going to, when you start to tighten it up, the tire is going to go squarely up against the vehicle. It's not going to be lopsided, either be clockwise or counterclockwise. May put a little bit of a slight shift to the spare tires. You don't want that to happen. And then lower the vehicle. Oh, actually, I'm going to show you the video. There was a tire company that put out a real great changing tire video, so I got that.
Make sure your vehicle is parked in a safe location. A low-traffic parking lot or large paved pullout well off any busy street or road is ideal. Set the emergency brake first. If you have a manual transmission, put your car in first gear. If your vehicle is an automatic, just put it in park. Next, place wheel chocks or big rocks behind and in front of the tire opposite the one being changed. This will prevent vehicle movement and the jack from slipping while we work. Next, find your lug wrench, jack, and spare tire. These tools are often located in the trunk under the carpeting. Your vehicle's manual will indicate exactly where they are. This only applies if your vehicle has a hubcap. Many hubcaps just snap into place, but some are held on by the lug nuts. You can usually pry them off using something flat like a screwdriver. If your vehicle has covers over the lug nuts, be sure to remove them as well. Loosen the first lug nut by rotating the wrench counterclockwise just once without removing the lug nut entirely. Then, loosen the second nut directly opposite of the first one, and then the one opposite that, like a star-shaped pattern. If the lug nuts are tight, use your body weight to push down. Look in your owner's manual for where to position the jack. It's often under the frame near the tire with the flat, but not always the case. Our jack should be aligned with a thin seam line that runs under the vehicle. The factory jack has a notch cut out of it for a specific fit. Next, insert the handle and turn it clockwise to raise the car. Lower the jack if at any point your car seems unstable, and never ever get under a car that is only supported by a jack. Now, fully remove the lug nuts and place them in a secure location. Grasp the tire with two hands and pull it straight out. Then place it under the car. This is a precautionary measure just in case the jack slips. Remove any aftermarket accessories like hub rings at this point. The valve stem on the spare tire should be facing out. Then align it with the wheel studs and push it into the assembly. Tighten one lug nut by hand. Follow the same star pattern used to remove the lug nuts. Remove the flat tire from underneath the vehicle. Turn the jack handle counterclockwise and lower the vehicle. Once the vehicle is firmly grounded, fully tighten the lug nuts using your wrench, again in the star-shaped pattern. Remember to gather your tools back in place. Remove the wheel chucks and place your flat tire in the trunk. Lug nuts and lug bolts should be torqued to factory specs. You can also reach out to a local discount tire for proper torque recommendations for your vehicle. Finally, remember that spare tires are smaller and less capable than regular tires. They should only be used for limited short-distance driving. Visit your nearest discount tire.
Okay, I thought they really did a pretty good job of explaining how to change a tire. Of course, that's their business, so of course they're going to be good at it. But the thing that I forgot to mention that I think is a real good safety precaution is putting the spare underneath the vehicle in case it comes off the jack. I will tell you, it's happened numerous times to me when I've had to change a tire. For whatever reason, if I didn't have it on level ground or I was moving the vehicle a little bit, it does go off the jack. So be very careful about, what you do touching the car and how high you get it, where you've actually placed it on the frame. So read the owner's manual. Every one of you should be able to change a tire. There's not a single one of you that I don't feel confident that if you had to pull over to the side of the road, read the owner's manual, and after listening tonight, should be able to change a tire. And here's the other thing I should have mentioned the first thing tonight. If you don't want to change a tire, you have to have a plan B. And what your plan B probably should be, and it's not calling mom and dad, it's having roadside assistance. Now, sometimes, depending on the vehicle that you have, it comes with the manufacturer specs, meaning that it's part of the car warranty that they'll provide service for you at the side of the road. But I'm a firm believer, because I have an older car. The driver's ed car is 2015, so we're way out of warranty. I have AAA. I would highly recommend that all of you have your parents take a look at getting you on a AAA program, or making sure that whether it's through Nissan, a Subaru, or whatever car that you have at home, see if they have their own service plan. You can buy a warranty that will help you with some of the things that we're talking about tonight. Now, the next thing I want to talk about for a driving emergency is skidding, and that kind of goes into what we're going to be talking about later tonight or tomorrow, is bad weather or losing traction with your vehicle. It's when your tires no longer grip the road, and it can be for a number of reasons. It could be, like we just said, it could be a blowout. It could be wet leaves on the road. It could be ice. It could be snow. It could be rain. It could be gravel. There are a number of reasons why your tire is no longer gripping the road and causing you to either push or fishtail in one direction or the other. But as we've said since the beginning of tonight, it's a steering problem. Try to keep your car in your lane. The best way I can explain fishtailing is that if your back end goes in one direction, now here it says be ready to steer in the opposite direction. But if your back end, okay, think about this. Right now you're sitting in a chair. If you just move your seat to the right, so that's the back of your vehicle, so move your seat to the right, you're going to steer to the right. That's how you're supposed to respond to your back end. Now, in your seat that you're sitting in, go to the left a little bit. Since your back end is going to the left, you steer to the left. It's almost intuitive that you know which way to turn. The problem is if you don't turn either enough or too much. So what does that leave? Doing it correctly. Okay, too little is bad, too much is bad. You've got to have something that's balanced in the middle where you're not making it worse or not having any impact at all in the skidding problem. This takes practice. This is why I highly recommend going someplace and having some experience with your car losing control. I don't know who I was driving with, but I know there are at least 3 or 4 of you that, I think it was last week when we had snow, I took you to a parking lot and we tried to take turns a little bit faster. We tried to hit the brakes really hard. We tried to put the car in a little bit of a skid. I wanted you to get a sense or feel of how a car is going to react when it starts to lose control. Because if you do it that way, you're the one that's dictating what the car is doing, and then you're trying to respond to what you're trying to make happen. The worst thing for you as a driver is in 2 months from now, like in February or March, to have one of these driving emergencies and you're just trying to remember what we talked about. You're just trying to remember what you should be doing. It's going to be scary. So the more you start to get a feel for your car and how it responds, when it does happen, you go, oh yeah, I remember this is what the car, this is what I got to do now. You just kind of fall into place. You get that comfort level. I wouldn't say comfort level, but you kind of know what to do. Flooded engine, you don't really need to know that anymore. And really, the state manual that you have right now is really taking a lot of these things out. This is really from the older state manual that we had. Wet brakes happens to everybody, so I do want you to write this down. Test your brakes after going through deep water. Why is that? Because you could have water on your brake pads, and anytime you have a wet surface, like if you were to wet your hand and put it on a table and try to move it, it's going to move a lot faster. It's going to have less friction, and you're going to go a greater distance, so your braking is going to be different. So get a feel for your brakes when they're a little bit wet. Now, to dry brakes, you're applying light pressure while you're accelerating. So you're trying to heat up or dissipate, get rid of that heat. Now, you may hear sounds. The brakes may feel spongy. So there are going to be some indicators that something's just not right. And a lot of times when you're having braking problems, you're going to have a indicator on your instrument panel kind of light up, indicating that there's a brake problem. So you're going to know, oh, it's a brake problem. That's what's going on, and this is what I got to do. Some of these videos I just can't find anymore, so I'm just going to talk about it. When you have total brake failure, that means that you're hitting the brake pedal and the car's not stopping the way that you want it to. A lot of times there's going to be a definite change of feel. The brake's going to feel a little bit soft or spongy. The first thing you should do is pump the brakes. So put that in your notes as number one. And why would you pump your brakes? What does that do? Okay. There is fluid in your brake cylinder. I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. There's brake fluid in your brake cylinders, and there's a line that goes to where your tires are, where your brakes and your rotors, brake rotors are. And that's what's making the brakes pulsate or to start to squeeze and slow down your tire. When there's an air bubble, it prevents the brake pedal and the rotor to connect and to activate. So by pumping, you're forcing that air bubble out of the line, and then you get your brakes back to its regular, functioning brake pad that you're always accustomed to. If that doesn't work, use the parking brake, but remember that locks up your back tires. Hold the release because you are going to go into a skid. So pull up on the brake lever, the emergency brake lever, or push on that pedal, but then you got to release it because you don't want to lock the brakes up for too long. Shift to a lower gear, so the gear right below drive is something that you want to go into. Look for something to side swipe, and we're talking, I want you to write this down. This is really important. I won't test you on this, but this is really important. Whatever you hit, you'll have to replace. Think about that. You're out of control. You're going to have a collision. Why would Mr. Toll tell me be choosy with what I hit? Well, here we're saying you need to slow down, so you're going to have to hit things, okay? Because by hitting things, it's going to reduce impact. There's going to be an impact that's going to bring your speed down. But whatever you hit, you're going to have to replace. So things that are expensive are going to be expensive to replace. Look for shrubs, look for mailboxes, look for things that have some give to it. Will slow you down a little bit, but aren't going to be super expensive. When you hit fire hydrants, telephone poles with, transformers on it, those things are going to cost like $10,000, $15,000 to replace. That's a lot of money. Hitting another vehicle, that's going to cost a lot of money to fix. So go in somebody's yard, go into a field. Yeah, it's going to take you a while to get out, but there's no damage. You've slowed your car down. Give other people warning by beeping your horns, flashing your lights. If you can pull over, consider yourself lucky. Turn off the vehicle, call for help. Do not drive beyond that point. Okay? You're lucky. You didn't get into a bad crash. But if you are going to get into a crash, what should you do? Try to lessen the impact by stopping as quickly as you possibly can. So hit that brake as hard as you can. And for those of you that were in that snow-packed parking lot that we went to, you know that the ABS was working on the car because we could feel the brake pedal pulsating. So we know that it was working. So that is what we're trying to do. Turn quickly sometimes. Look for the shoulder, but never to the left. I wouldn't say never, but be very careful because if you do have a crash, you're over on their side of the road. That's not going to be good if you're filing a claim. Well, what side of the road was the crash? Oh, it was on their side. So you went over the yellow line to get out of a crash. which caused the crash. Seems kind of strange. So be very careful about putting yourself over on the other side. Side swipe, we've already talked about, lessening impact. Speeding up, like out of angle parking. People downtown Durham, they're backing out of a parking spot. You don't see them to the last second. Sometimes by speeding up, it gets you away from where they're coming out the rest of the way. Sometimes if a person's running an intersection and you can see it, sometimes that it's possible to speed up. Okay. Be very careful about being hit on both sides. So be careful about where you're going to get hit. If you take a look at the picture, and I know if you're, I don't know what you're watching tonight's class on, but that is a man pinned between two large vehicles on I-84, and he's alive. Isn't that incredible? He must be driving like a Mini Cooper or a Fiat or a smart car, because there is nothing there but metal a little bit to the front of him, left of him, a little bit to the right of him, and he's right there. And he's just looking at people taking pictures at him. It's kind of strange. I guess if he can't move and you can't do anything for him until they move the trucks, but sometimes just being lucky is all you need. This is another number, like a top 5 things that happen to a lot of people. So in your driving career, although if we're going to like in hybrids, this probably just isn't going to happen that much. People in hybrids don't overheat that often because we can take the load away from the engine by going to a battery pack. But it's because your car is overheating because you don't have enough coolant to circulate through the engine to keep it cool. So the engine's getting too hot. Metal doesn't like heat, and it starts to break down the oil. You're running out of oil, and it just messes up the whole car. So look at your temperature gauge. Remember your temperature gauge, and I think this was a question on the midterm. C is for cold, H is for hot. When you see the needle going towards the red, towards the H, you are overheating. So what you need to do is to turn on your heater on high. I don't care what season it is. Could be in the middle of summer. I don't care it's 80 degrees outside. Your engine needs to cool down. So turn your heater on, crack down your windows. Look for a place to pull over by the side of the road because you're going to have to get coolant into your vehicle at some point. But be very careful when you loosen the radiator cap to put coolant in it, because if you put cool fluid into a hot engine, you're going to crack the engine. Okay, you're going to crack the engine block, which means metal will split, metal will warp. Don't tell your parents you learned this in driver's ed, but I will tell you a trick. I guess it's a trick or an experiment that to show you what cold fluid will do to hot metal. Try to find an old frying pan. Don't do this with anything that's really good of your parents, because they'll kill you or kill me. But I did this inadvertently once, is that I had a hot frying pan that I had from the stove. And I don't know what was in it. I don't know if something maybe had caught fire or was burning or something. But I stuck it into the sink where there was a pan of dishwater that wasn't cold, but it was cool. The minute that hot pan went into that water, it just twisted and bent that metal like nobody's business. You could not set that frying pan flat on the stove again. Okay, so when you put something fluid into your engine that is super hot, you're going to do some messed up stuff to the metal inside your car. So just don't do it. It doesn't happen that often, but why would a vehicle plunge into water? The first thing we think of, you go off the edge of the road, you go into a river or a lake or something like that, or you go over a bridge and bust through the guardrails. Those things don't happen that often. Do you know in New England, the number one reason why people go off the edge or go into water is they're out on frozen lakes and they just kind of break through the ice. So be very careful about that. Your car will float on water for a few minutes, but it will always go to where the heaviest part of your vehicle is. So it will be where the engine is. So nose first. Try to get out as quickly as you can. If you can't, crack the window because it's going to relieve pressure. And by the way, very shortly, even though it's floating, you're going to lose electrical power. So once you lose electrical power, you're going to have to manually unlock your doors if they're locked and get out. And windows won't go down if they're electric windows. Go to the back of the vehicle because that's where the air pockets are going to be. Look for something to break a window. And I want you to write this down because I just found this out this weekend, actually, is that if you take the headrest off of your driver's seat or passenger seat, there are metal tongs. You can actually use those tongs. And remind me tomorrow, for those of you that are driving, we'll do the tire pressure and I'll show you this. The metal tongs that allow the headrest to go behind the seat can be used to crack the window. Now, we're not going to crack a window, but I'll show you where the metal is and how you can use it. Okay, here's an example of a car just going off a bridge. Now, notice that doesn't look like it's a state bridge. There's no guardrails. It could be a man-made type of a bridge, but here's a car that's, you know, he's not totally submerged, but part of the car is in water. Here's a case in point of a girl that, and I think I was talking to, let's see, who was I talking to? It was Grace, because she's got a place up in Merrimeeting Lake, that this girl fell through the ice with her father and brother. Her twin brother, actually. She was in the back seat, and she couldn't get out of the car as it was submerged, and she became like brain damaged, and she was confined to that wheelchair for her entire life. She passed away in 2015. I think she was 34. I think she was 11 when it happened, so it was pretty traumatic. I knew her mom and her family quite well. We went to the same church, so I used to see Sarah at church and all the time. The only way that we could communicate with Sarah is by using what they call an alphabet board. So when we wanted to say something to Sarah, or she wanted to communicate to us, I should say, she would actually spell it out. Okay, they should spell out the word. She could hear us. You know, that's my bad. She could hear us, but she couldn't speak. So it was a pretty sad story. So these things do happen. So be very careful about being out on a frozen lake, or if you're submerged in water, try to get out as quickly as you possibly can. Headlight failure. Turn on the turn signals, emergency lights. They may give you enough light to guide you off to the side of the road. High beams you can use for a little bit. That will get you off too. A stuck gas pedal. Just put your foot behind the gas pedal and kind of lift back on it. This sometimes can pull away the pedal, or there's a carpet mat that gets pinned up against the pedals. So just kind of reach down and pull on that. Shift to neutral will take away the thrust of the car wanting to move forward. Let me just show you the video. Toyota had a lawsuit against it because there was a major lawsuit because of a stuck gas pedal. And all the people that died in California because there was some mechanical problem, if they would have shifted to neutral, they would have lived. They would have been able to handle the driving emergency, but none of them. And I'm thinking, didn't they take driver's ed? Didn't they know how to handle this situation? They didn't shift to neutral, and the car just kept on pushing, keep on accelerating, and they went right through stop signs into intersections that had red lights, and they were getting T-boned, and they were dying at these crashes. But if they would have shifted to neutral, then your brake pedal becomes available to you. The gas is no longer available to you. If you're neutral, they would have survived. But here's Toyota explaining the gas pedal.
Although it is a rare occurrence, your Toyota may experience a sticky accelerator pedal. You should pay attention to the operation of your accelerator pedal. If the accelerator is harder to depress than normal or slower to return, it may be a precursor to a stuck pedal. These vehicles should be parked and a dealer immediately notified. Okay, What should you do if your accelerator pedal sticks? Although it is a rare occurrence, we thought you should know what steps you should take in the unlikely event that it did occur. If your pedal sticks and won't return to its original position when you take your foot off of it, step on the brake with both feet using firm and steady pressure. Don't pump the brake pedal as it will deplete the effectiveness of the brakes. Then simply shift into neutral, that's N for neutral, and firmly apply the brakes to make a controlled stop on the side of the road. If your Toyota's transmission has a notched shift gate and you're driving in sport mode, step on the brake with both feet using firm and steady pressure. Simply nudge the shifter to the right into drive, D, then forward into neutral, N, and firmly apply the brakes to make a controlled stop on the side of the road in a safe area and shut off the engine. Drivers who cannot put the vehicle into neutral should turn the engine off. This will not cause a loss of steering or braking control, but the power assist to these systems will be lost. If the vehicle has an engine start-stop button, firmly push the button down for at least 3 seconds to turn off the engine. Do not tap the start-stop button. If the vehicle has a conventional key ignition, turn the key to the accessory position, or ACC, to turn off the engine. But do not remove the key from the ignition, as this will lock the steering wheel. If you experience any...
So that gives you a little bit of a, hands-on, what to do if the gas pedal sticks. It's a machine, okay? Machines break down. They're not going to last forever. So you're going to have to think about some of these situations that we're talking about, because it will happen, especially on older vehicles. Power steering failure, just know that you're going to have to grip the steering wheel. Steering's going to be a lot more difficult. You can still steer, but it's almost like driving an old truck. You've got nice, easy, steering right now, power steering. But once the power steering goes, because you don't have enough fluid maybe, then it's just not going to steer like it normally does. Restart the vehicle could be a computer glitch, but more than anything, it's probably going to be lack of power steering fluid in your reservoir. Hood flies up. Why would that happen? You're going down the road, and all of a sudden, the hood starts to rumble a little bit. You may have checked your oil or, checked something else out, and you didn't push the hood down all the way where it latches. It has to latch, because if it's not latched, there's a chance that if you don't have a mechanism to release the hood, it will just fly up automatically. Now, this is an older clip, an older car, and it's from a third world country. You can tell by the people speaking, but I did find this online. So I'll give you an idea of a car driving, and then the hood flies up. So you could see where it was just moving a little bit, and all of a sudden it just came right up into the windshield. And right now, I hope he's not moving. See, he's right in the middle of the road right now. See? It didn't latch. See? He's trying to latch it again. Buddy, it's not going to work. So that's a hood flying up. Windshield wiper failure, we're talking about the mechanical arm. We're not talking about the blade. So a blade is totally different. A blade will smear the window, so make sure you have good rubber contact with the window. Carry an extra pair in your car if you can. Clean off snow and ice off the blade. That's going to give you the best clean view out of your window. But what they're talking about right here is that the arm, for whatever reason, is burnt out, it's blown, maybe a fuse is gone. the wiper arm is not going up or down anymore. So how do you get off the road? Just stick your head out the window, guide yourself off the side of the road, and then basically call for help. Because you can't drive in a heavy rainstorm without your wipers. Okay, I want you to write down a few things here. Your car is broken down, so we want to make sure that it's safe for other people that are approaching. First thing to do is to make sure that you're seen for 200 feet. So pull well off the road. Don't park on a curve or a hill, and your car has to be seen for that 200 feet. Now, parking lights are used if you have control of the vehicle and you know how to fix it. You're going to put your emergency lights on if you want somebody to pull over and to help you. Okay, we're going to get back to that in a minute. Raise your hood, tie a white cloth. That means that you don't have any electrical power. You would have used your emergency flashes, but your battery is dead. How do you tell people you need help? You tie the white cloth. Red is symbolic of I need help. White you would use, when it's not winter. Stay with your vehicle, because sometimes people will get hit. Maybe people would be, abducted. Flares, reflectors need to be 200 feet behind in front of the vehicle. Okay, let's go back to using your emergency flashes and having people pull over to help you. Okay, I want you to write this down. This is not in a textbook. This is not in a manual. This is something, I've heard some of this stuff on TV when they've talked about incidents. And I don't want to freak anybody out, but these things do happen, so I want to give you forewarning that it could happen. So we need to have a plan. So please write this down. I'm going to get out and go right to my regular. Okay, this is what I want you to write down. If you're stuck on the side of the road and you've got a mechanical breakdown, let's say, what time is it right now? Okay, it's 8:30 and you're on a back road. Okay, it's dark. You're all by yourself. You have no friends with you. You've got your cell phone, all right? I would not leave my car. If you've gone out, looked at what the problem is, it's a flat tire, stuff like that, you can assess it. But if you're waiting, wait inside your vehicle. Keep it locked. If someone is coming to help you, never roll down your window where someone can reach inside your car. Crack it just a little bit, okay? If someone pulls over to help you, I'm going to take out my phone right now. Okay, you know that you can take a picture in front of you and behind you. So you could be looking straight ahead and look in the rearview mirror. You can go and take a picture of the vehicle that's behind you if someone pulls up behind you. Why do you do that? If anything ever happens to you, how are they going to find that person? The best way to do it is by a description of the vehicle and the license plate number. If you have your phone, I'm just going to put my phone off to the side right now. Okay, and you've got like one of those, snakes that holds the phone, so you can do GPS, directions on your phone or whatever, or your playlist. Change it to your video, and if someone's talking to you, put that on and take a video of you talking to the person. Not only can we hear their voice, but maybe if you've got it aimed just right, you can take a picture of who's talking to you. All right? There are hundreds of people that have needed help and they thought they were getting help. And it turns out that there are very evil people that will do some horrible things. You've got to think of, how can I protect myself? So you break down, call your parents, call for help, AAA, but do these things that I just mentioned. It's going to leave photos, audio, video, anything, in case anything bad happened. We could go back and do traces of it. So, like I said, I don't want to freak you out, but let's just make a plan. So if it does happen, we can try to help you. Jump starting a vehicle. I actually made a video for this, so let me go back. Okay, let me show you my how to jump start a video. This was the first video I did with my drone, so I got to get better at it, but this is what I did. success. So that is changing or jump starting a vehicle. So the thing to remember is red is for positive, black is for negative. Put the cables in order, and you can refer back to your owner's manual. That's the best way to do it, but everybody should be able to do this. The one thing that I will say is that newer vehicles or the hybrid vehicles, their batteries in some pretty strange places. The battery in the driver's ed vehicle is in the trunk. So we don't have a battery to jump from the front. So sometimes getting access to a vehicle can be difficult. So make sure that you have long enough cables, or that you can bring your car around, whether it be front end or back end, so you can attach the cables, because if they don't stretch, then you're out of luck. The other thing is that it may not be just a battery. It could be your alternator. It could be other things, but at least give the battery a check and jump it and see if that works. If you go to any car warehouse like Pep Boys, Auto Advance, there are a lot of different ones around. They can actually check your battery to let you know whether your battery has much life to it. Because remember, a battery that is older will run out of juice. It's just not going to have the pulling power to give you electricity. So it has to be replaced. So if your car is older, there's a good chance, because that's an older truck, by the way. And by the way, it did need to be jumped. I just did not do this video for the sake of doing the video. I had to do it because I was jumping a car and I said, hey, this would make a good video. So, and by the way, within a half hour to 2 hours, I went to start the truck again and wouldn't start. So it wasn't the low battery. It was a bad battery. I had to replace the battery. And that's pretty simple to do too. You just take off the positive post and the negative post and pull the battery out and put a new one in. Now, they're pretty heavy, and you're going to have to dispose of the old battery, because that'd be, polluting. So we had to take care of that. But it was not a big hassle. Why would a vehicle catch on fire? Well, because there's electricity going through it. Wires get worn, and a spark can take place. And remember, you're going to use all your senses except taste for driving. Think about it. You use your sense of sight, you use your sense of smell, but you don't use your sense of taste. So you may smell smoke. And if you smell smoke, it could catch fire. So turn off the engine, try to find where that smoke is coming from, get people out of the vehicle. I wouldn't try to put it out. It's so hard, because once oil or gas, you need quite a bit, and you need a special chemical. Don't put water on it, because that's only going to make things worse. And by then, your car's probably going to be totaled anyway, so I'd get away from a burning vehicle if you can. So that brings us to what we're going to cover for tomorrow night. So we're going to just watch just I think one or two clips about bad weather. And then I'm going to give you homework. The homework that you're going to have to do will be on the remote Facebook page. And I'll try to get that on tonight. I think it's a questions from responsible driving. So I'll put the link, and I'll send those of you that need the link, I'll put that in a text message to you. But we'll be doing hazardous driving weather tomorrow. So let's take a look at that. If you take a look at this picture, there are probably about 7 or 8 cars, and there's probably about 6 or 7 large trucks. So how did this mess come down? You know, why couldn't it have been, you know, something better than all these cars, you know, crashed into one another? It can be broken down into 2 things. So I want you to write this down. The reason why something like this happens can always be contributed to 2 things. Too much speed and too close a following distance. So all bad weather, you should be able to drive in almost all types of bad weather. Now, you know, there are going to be some that you probably just can't because you're not even moving the vehicle. But if your vehicle can move, so if you're moving at 5-10 miles per hour, you're getting to where you're going, but you're only going 5-10 miles per hour. But you're still moving and you're still safe. What happens is people don't get happy. They get too complacent with going slow, and they go, if I go 5 or 10, I bet you 15 or 20 will be okay. And then people start losing contact with the roadway at 15 and 20, and they're slipping all over the place. And they're crashing into cars. And when one car hits to another car, then that, you know, pushes them into somebody else's lane, and then the third person's involved. And here comes another car. He can't stop. Now there's 4 cars, and before you know it, you've got a long line of cars that are just, you know, flying and bumping into one another. So it can always be contributed to those 2 problems: too much speed and too close a following distance. Let's take a look at black ice. Watch this. Here's speed.
An expressway slick with ice, black ice, thin, nearly invisible to drivers. The ice has caused a car to crash in the fast lane. Trooper Jeff Oken parks his cruiser to prevent a pileup. But behind him, drivers are approaching way too fast.
Oh, they want you to buy the DVD. I think we all know what happened. He got plowed. He plowed himself right into the police car. He had no place to go. He was going too fast. He wasn't able to stop. And black ice, by the way, is probably the worst thing to be driving on. And that's what we're going to start tomorrow's class on. But let me show you one more compilation of bad weather driving in bad weather.
I'll tell you, baby, we can go for a ride if you're hungry. I'm searching for the streets tonight. Look, you're home too. What if I showed you how I'm getting off of you? Baby, I think it's alright. And you know, can't baby. Way too fast till the dawn when the world takes you back from the past and we're shattered. But this is what it's come to. And I push and
Okay, you get the point. These people did not know how to drive in bad weather, and they were going too fast, and they do not how to counter a fishtail and get out of a skid. All these probably could have been prevented or been a lot, less of an impact of what you saw. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So your homework is to read Chapter 13 in Responsible Driving, Section 3 in the manual. So we'll pick this up. I will go on to the remote Facebook page and put down questions for what we've covered tonight. So just get that done before tomorrow's class. It doesn't have to be done right now. But if you want to do it, that's fine too. So that's it for tonight. If I'm going to go back through, I see that a lot of people did text me and let me know that you're willing to drive. So I'm going to try to go through some things and try to figure that out, and I'll try to get back to you later tomorrow on what that is. So have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30.